First of all, leptin's most famous effect falls in this idea of regulating energy balance or just metabolism. And the most famous effect being the suppression of appetite. Leptin will act on the hypothalamus, which is a distinct small section within the center of the brain. And by doing so, by acting on the hypothalamus, it activates satiety centers or signals. Thus, if leptin is elevated in the bloodstream and leptin is working well, then it will tell the brain, it will enhance this sense of satiety, and ideally then the person begins to eat a little less. Now, that is leptin's most famous effect, but you've heard me invoke similar language with regards to insulin and glucose control, that controlling glucose is insulin's most famous effect, but that shouldn't imply that, in this case, back to leptin, that it is the most important, because leptin does a lot of other things. But just as we're going to get into now, but just still sticking within the realm of energy and metabolism, leptin promotes mitochondrial biogenesis. So it is stimulating the production of new mitochondria, particularly in mitochondria-rich tissues like muscle cells. When leptin comes to a muscle cell, one of its effects, and there are several even at the muscle, will be to stimulate the production of new mitochondria. Another effect is back to the brain, which is leptin's influence on the reproductive axis. It should be a very well-known fact, although it isn't. Even still, it's something I've discussed previously. Leptin modulates something called gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH. And that then influences luteinizing hormone, LH, and follicle stimulating hormone, FSH. Both LH and FSH are important in men too, but as the name suggests, luteinizing hormone, which is reflective of the corpus luteum, a remnant structure when the ovary has ovulated, but also follicle stimulating hormone, with the follicle itself, which is maturing into the egg, which will ovulate. The names of these hormones are reflective of the fertility processes in women. But again, that's not to say they're not relevant in men. They are. Even still, leptin is an essential signal at stimulating GnRH. Let me just really put a fine point in this. If there is, in other words, no leptin in a body, there's no fertility. Leptin is utterly critical. It is completely essential to normal fertility. This is, of course, particularly a problem in women. Women, in part, probably. Now, allow me to speculate a little bit. This is an opportunity where, when I'm discussing these kinds of things with students, I say we have to step out of science and kind of enter the realm of philosophy or speculation. Why is it that this fat-derived hormone, leptin, is so essential to signaling to the brain that it's okay for fertility to occur? And why is that then so much more important in women? Why is it that the female body is so much more sensitive to leptin, or in other words, requires more leptin in order for fertility to occur than what you would see in her male counterpart? Now, we can speculate, though, and that's fun to do. It could be that as women bear the metabolic burden of fertility, it's very important for her body to ensure that it has enough energy to not only provide or account for this substantially increased metabolic rate that's occurring in her body as she's growing this new little human. Not only the energy going to the new little human, but the energy growing to grow her own body. Pregnancy is one of the really kind of two instances of substantial growth in the life of a human, the other one being puberty. So her body is growing in a lot of ways in order to help the environment be suitable for the little human to grow as well. So her metabolic rate is going to go up a lot. Having sufficient fat tissue is basically this metabolic insurance. It's the brain's way of saying, hey, how are we doing with regards to our energy reserves? Do we have enough energy on hand to really commit to this? Do we really want to do this, body? Because this is a marathon. Are we ready to commit to this? Fat cells, if there's enough fat cells, there will be enough leptin, and then the leptin will signal to the brain that fertility is okay to go.